Hello there, this is Richard from Death and Service, bringing you another video diary. The travels have brought me across the county, and there are some beautiful places that I've been fortunate enough to visit, and this is another of those with the pheasants in the background. This is St Andrew's Church in Holcombe. When I say in Holcombe, it's absolutely on its own, in the middle, seemingly of nowhere, with farm up on the hill and a little church here. Such a peaceful setting for the two service personnel from the First World War who gave their all for king and country. Focusing on one of those today, and that is of Private George Taylor, who was laid to rest here in the family plot. Now, George William Taylor was born on the 14th of July 1884 here in Holcombe. He was one of 10 children, and his parents were John and Martha Taylor. John was a coal miner, and for a while after finishing his schooling, George followed his father into the pit, but he wanted bigger and better things and was drawn to a career in the army. On the 16th of September 1901, George enlisted in the Somerset Light Infantry. His service records confirmed that he was 5'7" tall and weighed 131 pounds. It was noted that he had brown hair, grey eyes and a fresh complexion, and that he had a scar on his right shin and another on his left arm. Private Taylor was assigned to the 2nd Battalion and spent the next 10 months training on home soil. In July 1902, however, he set off on his first big adventure, travelling to South Africa with his troop. He returned home in the spring of 1903 and spent the remainder of his 7 years' term of service on British soil. On Christmas Day 1906, George married Ellen Hitchcock. She was the daughter of a blacksmith from Bath, and their marriage certificate adds further details to George's life. He was living in Plymouth in Devon when they married, and he gave his trade as a bugler in the Somerset Light Infantry. During the rest of his army contract, George had a number of admissions to hospital for recurring conjunctivitis, a sprained ankle in November 1905, and a bout of scabies in January 1908. That autumn, having served for 7 years, he was stood down to reserve status. By the time of the 1911 census, George had settled back into civilian life. He and Ellen had set up home in Holcombe, and George took up work back in the colliery there, where he was employed as a carter. A boarder helped him bring in a little bit more money, but the document shows evidence of tragedy, as it notes that Ellen had given birth to 2 children, but they had both died. When war came to Europe in 1914, George was called back into active service. Initially assigned to the 1st Battalion of the Somerset Light Infantry, he arrived in France in July 1915. He would only remain there for a matter of months, however, and by October he was back in Britain, reassigned to the 3rd Battalion. It appears that his repatriation may have been for health reasons. On the 31st of January 1916, he was admitted to the 4th Southern General Hospital in Plymouth. The handwriting in the notes for the admission is difficult to read. The basic headline is starkly clear: bronchitis and subsequently mental. Private Taylor remained in hospital for a couple of weeks before being moved to the Wells Asylum in Somerset. He was assessed by the military doctor after a couple of months' treatment and was declared unfit to continue in active service due to general paralysis of the insane, or shell shock, or PTSD as it's known today. His illness is wholly attributed to the military service and sheds some light on what he must have gone through during his short time in France compared to his previous 7 years' service. George's last day in the army was on the 13th of April 1916, and he had served for a total of 14 years, 211 days. George's trail goes cold at this point. He passed away on the 22nd of December 1916 at the age of 32 years old. Although records do not confirm this, it's likely that he died whilst he was still admitted to the asylum, as his death was recorded in Wells. George William Taylor was brought back to Holcombe for burial. He was laid to rest in the family plot in the graveyard of St Andrew's Church. This is the family plot and commemoration of George. It also sheds some further light on his other family members. His brother Geoffrey served as a sergeant in the Somerset Light Infantry and died in April 1917. And another relative, John Edward Taylor, served in the RAF Voluntary Reserve as a sergeant, passed away in 1943 at the age of 19. Family brought together through war and peace.